So this isn't great. I've just spent the week. Well, I'm sick in bed, so I've been trapped in my room because I've got COVID. And I'm trying not to give it to other people. And I'm watching the U.S. come completely unglued in real time, and I've been doom scrolling. And I want to offer you a post that I wrote, interestingly, in January of 2017 called Three Practices for a World in Turmoil. And I'll put a link to the original post in the comments below. But I said, when we're caught up in the state of fear and grief and the anticipation of more grief to come, and we desperately feel like we want to do something, but we're so entangled in the emotions, it's so hard to know what actions to take. And there are practices that are known for helping us clear our grief, clear our fear, clear the roiling, fearful anxiety to help us find our way back to action. And these are beyond self care. They're ways to walk through the fire and get to the other side so that we can move again, because there's we can't be paralyzed. We can't scroll and scramble, and we have to take action, and we're going to have to stay functional for the next period of time. I was going to say years, but this might just be how things are now. So the first practice in this set is Metta, which is loving kindness. And this involves cultivating a sense of love and kindness in your heart and then giving it away. Counterintuitively can be really difficult practice. You start with yourself or the people who are closest to you. I have found that a lot of people struggle with starting with themselves, and they are able to love and care for the people closest to them more readily than they can start with themselves. But as you practice, you move out farther to further removed people and beings and eventually encompass all sentient beings. Well, that sounds great, but it means that at some point you have to pass through the point where you're sending loving kindness to someone with whom you have a conflicted or difficult relationship. And there's all kinds of lovely videos that will walk you through this. Both of these, I think, Sharon Salzberg and Jack Kornfield are particularly good teachers in this one. And they're probably available on Insight Timer, but also on YouTube. And one of the things that comes up for people with this one is that they think, may this person have happiness, and they come to the person that they're conflicted with, and we probably can think of somebody right now, and people say, but they're happy when everybody else is miserable. And I often have trouble refuting that claim. The way I resolve this one is to use the words I was originally taught, which is, may they not be separated from happiness and the root of happiness. And a lot of what passes for what looks like those kind of vicious glees, those aren't a deep, peaceful, connected, embodied, compassionate kind of happiness. They're that triumph of the ego resolving itself to complete hold. And if you see that viciousness and the cruelty, they're not connected to happiness. They're separated from the root of happiness, because the root of happiness is that the root of love and compassion is missing. And what we can wish is that they're drawn back into compassion and happiness. It's not a wish for them to become triumphant and be happy by imposing their will on the world. It's an invitation back to an inner peace that doesn't require dominion, and to reclaim their place in what Mary Oliver calls the family of things. The second practice in this series is called Tonglen, which is sending and receiving. And this is an incredibly powerful practice of transforming the experience of suffering. In this one, you draw in the pain on the inhale and you exchange it and you send relief on the exhale. And you have to not let yourself get lost in the pain. For me, Tonglen, which I think I learned from Pema Chodron, the practice of Tonglen becomes one of balance. For each in-breath, there's also an out-breath, so the experience is limited in time. I know I only have to endure this, the awareness of this pain, this suffering, until the change of the tide of my breath. And at times that you're absorbed in the pain of the world, you may benefit from sending relief because you yourself have the opportunity to experience that relief in the moment. Pema Chodron, yes, it does. Look, I got to that part of my own blog post. Pema Chodron has some of the best instruction in Tonglen, and it is on YouTube, I think. I'm going to put a link to that as well. And she has a gentle and thorough approach. I would actually recommend listening to her instruction before you try this. And she also says it might not be for everybody, and you might want to set it aside for another time. If you are getting caught in the pain, if you are so absorbed in the suffering of the world, don't do that one. If you are able to find yourself relieving, she calls our attention in that talk to our everyday experiences of relief, of putting on a sweater when it's cold, and how much we can acknowledge and take inspiration from those moments, and then have the thought, may others experience this as well. And the third practice I have in this post is called Act of Hope, and it's Joanna Macy's. Chris Johnston and Joanna Macy wrote a book called Act of Hope. And the subtitle was How to Face the Mess We're In Without Going Crazy. If you're not familiar with her work, she's an eco-philosopher who teaches from a position of engaged Buddhism. And she, along with others, proposes that we consider ourselves to be in the midst of a great turning away from a destructive industrial growth society towards a life-sustaining society. And if this is going to come to fruition, each of us has a role to play in that process. So these are sets of practices that are meant to be done in community and connection, but the videos are available for us to take them out into our own communities and create communities of practice around them. So she talks about the need to come from gratitude, but to face our despair head on before transforming it through engagement with others. So we're not bypassing the grief. We're not acknowledging the discomfort and the pain and the sadness, but we're not also getting caught with those. So there's a set of videos to work through for that. Prior to that, there's also the work that reconnects. So this is the thing that preceded Act of Hope. So those two things are both set up. And I'll put a link to my blog post down below, and it has links in it. So I'll pull some of those links in here, and I'll put the other links in the blog post. So those are some starting points. I hope some of those are helpful to you. If you have other suggestions of things to practice, that'd be great. I'd love to hear about other ways for us to talk about, to practice getting through this period of time. And it's midnight on January 29th, and I'm still here. We're still here.